he's perfectionist, as almost everyone we've discussed would fall into that personality characteristic. They're a perfectionist.
Jack Nicholson has always lived life large, with a boyish charm, and possessing boundaries that hide a perfect amount of sheer madness. He has fought and put together his life on the principles of pure honesty. Now, at 88 years old, with Hollywood Hills fading into the distance, he is reportedly divulging the names of the 4 actors he claims made his on-set life terrible. Some may be near legendary, some may be Feuds. All are unforgettable. The name Jack Nicholson is an institution, a relic of Hollywood's golden age and bold new wave. From One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to The Shining, and from Chinatown to Batman, he has done more than just a movie. He has shaped film history in ways few could. Characters he has played are forever etched in our collective memory. But everybody, even icons, has limits. Even gods have pet peeves. In what is considered to be his most forthright and final commentary, Jack is saying, without any uncertainty, that there are 4 actors he could not stand working with. People who were toxic, manipulative, self-indulgent, and in one case, damaging to the artistic vision. Who are these actors? What actually happened off the screen during the making of these highly celebrated films from cinema history? And what does Nicholson's iconic view so many years later say about the price of genius and truth itself? So let us explore these untold stories and these unfiltered thoughts from one of the greatest and most fearless voices in Hollywood. Before we show the names of Jack's supposed list, now we need to speak about the man himself to be clear about what the ideas that formed and shaped these 4 people meant to him. To see why these 4 men mattered so much to him, it is important to understand the principles by which he lives. He is severe and vibrant and loyal to the craft of acting. Jack Nicholson was born in Neptune City, New Jersey, and he was a man who had to invent himself. When he arrived in Hollywood in the 1950s, he rode into town as a rebel without a cause and rode with the rebels, people like him. He studied with the acting coach Sanford Meisner. All Meisner taught was a simple idea that was profound. Acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. For Jack, this was not just a method, it became his religion. Truth, no matter how ugly or uncomfortable, was all that mattered. His first big break in 1969 with Easy Rider crystallized this character. He was more than an actor in Easy Rider. He was a counterculture icon, a voice for a generation that was tired of pretentiousness. This hatred of all things phony or contrived became the bedrock of his professional life. Directors such as Milos Forman and Stanley Kubrick have noted he had a level of dedication that is unmatched by anyone else. He didn't just pretend to be a character, he became that character in every way. He pilfered its nervous system. It is well known that he stayed in character for long stretches during the shoot of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, even not speaking to the director for weeks in order to capture Randall McMurphy's disobedience. For The Shining, he typed numerous pages of deranged rumblings that he imagined Jack Torrance might have made. As Defoe and Wright both told me, this was not just method mania, but a pure reverential devotion to his work, which defined his uncompromising code. Show up, do the work, tell the truth, and bring something dangerous and alive. No ego, sloth, or rehearsal you did in front of your bathroom mirror is worth wasting the time. Bring your best self, your entire being, or just don't come. When this code was broken, let's just say he never forgot. The first name on Jack's list is probably the most painful for him. This is the man who is a hero for him, the god of contemporary acting, who was ultimately his biggest professional disappointment. Marlon Brando. Nicholson worshipped Marlon Brando. For Jack and every other serious actor in his generation, Brando had been the messiah. His raw, vulnerable, and explosively funny performances in A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront broke the traditional rules and created a new language of acting. So, when Nicholson was offered a role opposite his idol in the 1976 Western The Missouri Breaks, it should have represented the culmination of a lifetime of admiration, the wonderful collaboration of two great acting talents under the direction of Arthur Penn. The expectations were incredibly high. But working with Brando was an altogether different experience. The genius Nicholson had so admired on screen was in fact a shadow of himself, in a strange and frustrating, lazy apathy. Nicholson came in every day with his lines learned, ready to take on his hero, until he discovered that Brando was simply not doing the same thing. He didn't learn his lines, not once. Jack is said to have said, "The guy invented the modern art of acting for the screen, and he has cue cards taped to every goddamned lamp, every other actor's forehead. He'd read a line off a prop banana if you let him. It was a gag. He was brilliant, but he was the laziest brilliant guy. And when it comes to my definition, lazy brilliant means plain and simple a fraud." Brando's behavior became an urban legend. He was paid incredibly well, showed up fat, and was making more and more specific character choices that only seemed to be to amuse himself. He developed a bizarre, lilting Irish accent, wore bonnets and dresses on set choices nobody, least of all the director and co-stars, could comprehend. For Nicholson, this was not the manifestation of the eccentric artist. It was serious disrespect for everyone, who were trying to do their job. There is a fine line between genius and self-indulgence. Brando crossed that line every day, often with his back to the camera looking at the lines. "I came to work to make something, perhaps to find some truth in the rubble." He came to work solely for entertainment. It wasn't acting. It was a private party, and we weren't invited. It was a little sad, watching your idol become a parody of himself. The film was a legendary flop, and although Nicholson always talked like Brando's earlier work was inspirational, he said he wouldn't share a set with Brando again because the chaos was not worth it. He is reported to have concluded that the lesson was a harsh one. Never meet your heroes, especially when they are no longer heroic. The second name conveys a more complex and tragic story. A connection that Nicholson's own characterized as a casualty of a brutal creative battle between himself and Shelley Duvall. Their battlefield was the Overlook Hotel, from Stanley Kubrick's 1980 horror classic, The Shining. Technically, this was not two actors having a feud. It was both of them suffering from the same trauma induced by a perfectionist director. Kubrick was notorious for making his actors do 100 takes per scene, dumping actors at the brink of material and psychological collapse. The shoot went on for longer than a year. Nicholson, with his regimented discipline, found a way to survive. He funneled his frustration into the rage of the character Jack Torrance. He had an understanding of what Kubrick was doing, and as a good craftsman, he was able to work through the maelstrom, if not find a way to use it. Shelley Duvall, playing the terrified Wendy Torrance, could not find an alternative to deal with it. Wendy's performance was contingent on fully transparent vulnerability, something that Kubrick was able to diminish day after day under the endless pressure. Nicholson later revealed in interviews that the barrage of emotions from Duvall was a lot. He needed something to focus on or something to react to. But he thought she went up and down so often, all due to the lingering Kubrick torture. He honestly felt she was under a lot of pressure. In fact, we all were. Stanley was like a general in a battle, and we were the soldiers in the trenches alongside him. Man, but did it feel like she dragged the storm in with her, each day. There was no rhythm. You would do one take, and it was amazing and raw, then you would do a completely different scene, which you would think were stereo instructions to her. You need a dance partner as an actor. You need to follow certain movements, even when you are improvising the moves. It sounded to me, with all of this experimenting, that Shelley was often hearing a different song than us. I found it difficult to grab and establish a rhythm. Once again, Jack's frustration was no way directed at the people of the cast or crew, only the enormous dynamic it created. He needed a professional core to steady the shots, and he felt that the production was always on a curl, at the mercy of her shot nerves. That made an already impossible job that much worse. Years later, with the luxury of hindsight, Jack had considerably softened, saying he has great empathy for what she endured. "I respect her. I really do. What Stanley did to her was amoral of any and every proportion. No one should have to endure that. The shoot was brutal for both of us. It nearly killed us both. The film is a work of art, but it is built on the ruins of our sanity. I wish it hadn't been that hard on all of us. The next name on the list represents a clash of ideologies, not generations. Tom Cruise. On the surface, their work together on the 1992 courtroom classic A Few Good Men was electric. Nicholson as the intimidating Colonel Nathan Jessup and Cruise as the arrogant young lawyer Daniel Kaffee gave the world one of the strongest confrontation exchanges in film history. The term "you can't handle the truth" became a cultural icon. However, in behind-the-scenes accounts, Nicholson was reportedly unimpressed with the young mover and shaker. A Meisner student, Nicholson interpreted Cruise's lore and otherworldly high-voltage energy as theatrical. To Nicholson, Cruise had always staged his responses. He wasn't an authentic person, but rather an artist that pretended to be. Nicholson recognized that Cruise's intense and sometimes frenzied focus was more about perceived superiority, image, and control than true artistic exploration. He acted like he wanted to learn from me. He was always studying and asking questions, but it was all about image. After the filming, Jack thought he told a close friend that it felt like he was the true young actor. In the process of learning a master, it wasn't real. When you look into his eyes, you can see the gears clicking, the smile. It works. It is perfect and empty. I want someone real. I want someone with warts, someone with mistakes. I want a human. Nicholson thrives in spontaneity, in the excitement of not knowing what his fellow actor will do. He saw Cruise as the exact opposite, a technician, showing up to the set knowing every beat, every gesture, every line, perfectly honed and rehearsed. For Jack, this was not acting. This was execution. The utterly wonderful courtroom scene is charming. And while it's good that we did the work, and that's all, what we see on screen is my attempt to break through a wall. I was trying everything to get him to react spontaneously with energy, and all I got back was what he had practiced in front of the mirror. It was the difference between a live concert and a studio recording. I liked the sweat of the audience's response more. Jack gave a performance in the movie that earned him an Oscar nomination, but he said he did not want to work with Cruise again because their ideas of working were just too different. He respected the work, but he couldn't get past it. The fourth entry on the list refers to a clash that was much more personal and public. A clash of wills with an actress he once revered during a project he viewed wholly as his own. Both Dunaway and Nicholson had shared an incredible bond while co-starring in the 1974 film Chinatown. Their chemistry nearly mythical, it seemed. As such, when Jack chose to direct the sequel in the 1990s, it made sense to bring back Dunaway to reprise her role of Evelyn Mulray. That was a colossal mistake. Their roles had changed. Nicholson was now her director, and what their bond in the previous movie did not translate to a collaboration. It had changed into blatant hatred. Members of the crew reported that Dunaway was a nightmare to work with. She was habitually late, sometimes hours late, and simply argumentative, fighting over every line. In a unique and honest discussion about the problematic production, he stated, "It wasn't trying to enrich the scene, it was power. It was her trying to exert power. As a director, you need to have cooperation. You want your actors to feel like partners in telling the story. What I got from her was sabotage." The situation had escalated to an unacceptable level. Jack was already under the intense pressure of directing, writing, and starring in the sequel to one of the most celebrated films of all time. And now, he was agitated and bickering with his leading lady on a daily basis. The headlines were added, reporting that Nicholson, in a moment of rage, had said Lady was impossible to direct. He reportedly was thinking of going so far as to fire her and replace her during the shoot. The workplace became so hostile that the scenes themselves were changed to limit their on-screen time together. Directing is a massive act of trust. The actor has to trust that you have their back, that you'll guide them and protect them. In return, the director has to trust that the actor will show up, do the work, and be open to discovery. That trust was broken on day one, became a hostage negotiation instead of an actual collaboration. You can't collage like that. It ruins the well for all of us. The Two Jakes was a financial and creative letdown, a pale imitation of its predecessor. For Nicholson, it was a traumatic experience that turned him away from directing and forever damaged his relationship with Dunaway. Jack Nicholson calls it like he sees it, and his vision, honed from sitting in the Hollywood trenches for 60 years, was as clear and unflinching as it ever was. Were you at all surprised by any of the names on this list? Do you think Nicholson was overly harsh, or simply being real? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more behind-the-scenes Hollywood truths, hit like, subscribe, and then tap the bell. Up next, we reveal the truth behind MASH and Alan Alda's shocking list of co-stars that he couldn't stand.